So I feel like this is an absolute dream come true because, like you can say that you've bagged a 10, but you really can't beat the guy who says that he bagged a princess, because my nigga just went and bagged royalty. She had the bags, but she dropped it for you. So it's either she's really bad at making decisions or...
The royal penis is clean, Your Highness.
Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast, where I talk about love, sex, and relationships from a guy's perspective, as well as a bunch of other guy shit. The man on the mic is a man who likes his women the same exact way he likes his yogurt. He is also a man who may include jumping to conclusions to his cardio routine. It is none other than your tall, dark, and mildly handsome man, Sir Denver B. And I am here to give you dreams and also present a few nightmares, at least to some people. Well, usually for like 50% of the demographic, it's considered not a problem. But, then again, there are some people, more so women, who may consider it a nightmare. What is it that I'm talking about? I will get to that in a couple of minutes. But all in all, as far as topics actually go, I feel like this is one of those few where I feel like it mostly affects women than men. Although I do intend on waking y'all up and at least bringing you guys back to reality. And should you like what you're listening to, or should you want to figure out what it is that I'm speaking about when I speak of a dream and or a nightmare, then you should probably listen all the way till the end. And should you like the episode, should you not like it, should you want to give a different form of feedback, or should you want to suggest a potential topic that I should discuss on this podcast, then the social media links are down in the description. They rarely ever change, and my DMs are always open, and I would be more than happy to receive what it is that you would like me to speak on, or just speak to me. And I would be more than happy to handle it accordingly. And also, if you're on any of those pages, a follow would be appreciated. It's nice to have a lot of followers. But all in all, thank you so much for listening. Like I said, I hope you listen all the way till the end. And in as much as I usually like to start with the not so nice stuff first so that I can finish on a high note, this is one of those instances where I kind of have to start with the dream before I go to the nightmare. And my dream is coming from Asia, where a Japanese princess, yes, I mean it, princess, gave up the royal title and $1.3 million to marry a man that she loved. Now, normally whenever people hear stuff like this is the kind of stuff that would be referred to by many people as what they call an act of fiction, or as some people would very aptly name it, a fairy tale. But in this particular case, this is actually more real than anything. And I do have the story here, and I'm going to read it. So it says, and I quote, Japan's former Princess Mako gave up her royal title in 2021 to marry Kei Komuro, a quote-unquote commoner she met while studying at International Christian University in Tokyo. The relationship began during a study abroad event, leading to an engagement in 2013. Despite delays and public scrutiny, the couple wed in October of 2021, with Mako turning down the traditional $1.3 million payout offered to royal women who leave the family. After their marriage, the pair relocated to New York, where Komuro now works as a lawyer. Mako described her husband as irreplaceable, saying the marriage was a necessary choice for their happiness. Now settled in the US, the couple recently welcomed their first child, the Imperial Household Agency confirmed. Both mother and baby are healthy, marking the first grandchild for Japan's crown prince and crown princess. End quote. Now, this definitely does sound like an actual fairy tale, because it's not even just like the fact that they got married and she chose to give up her title. We've seen that shit before. The thing that makes this sound like a fairy tale is she turned down $1.3 million and it was offered to her. It's not like, we'll give you the money if you do this, if you're selling your title or anything. It's not like she's going to keep the title, like she's basically now quote unquote a commoner now and shit. And the wildest part about it was that she didn't take the money. And actually, when I was looking at this story, most of the comments were actually about the fact that she chose to not take the money, and people didn't actually get why. Now, fortunately, I managed to find someone who commented and gave a full-on reason why. So apparently, the royal family offered her the 1.35 million US, which in Japanese yen is about 150 million yen, and she turned it down because there was supposedly a story where, the husband, or at least the fiance at the time's mom, was hard up financially and she asked for some cash as a loan and she didn't pay it back, and it kind of caused a bit of buzz. So it was kind of like a money scandal that they were like, you know what, if we take the money, then it's gonna look like it was kind of like a cash grab or some shit like that. And they basically were like, you know what, just no, let's not take the money, let's just go and do our own thing without the cash, because essentially that money is actually given, and it is like a customary thing if you want to like drop the title and shit. If you're a girl and you choose to marry a man, or if you are a lady and you choose to marry a man who is a commoner or just not royalty, then you're actually supposed to get the cash as a payout so that you can continue surviving and living as a princess and be particularly well off financially. But you kind of look at it, with the way she seems to be living, she seems to be doing fairly okay for herself. It doesn't state what exactly it is that she does. Maybe she's getting cash from the royal family and she's just chilling at home. But all in all, when she's saying that her man is irreplaceable, I feel like that's just a really, really good thing. Now, weirdly enough, what she did for most women would not be classified as a dream. It would mostly be classified as a very dumb move if you think about it without context. But for guys, this is basically like a dream come true. And I'll kind of explain it in a way that might not seem to make sense for some people, but once you get where I'm at, you'll kind of agree with me. Because you look at it, babes out here, and I'll say this as quote-unquote normal women out here, are busy asking for princess treatment all the live long day. Oh, I want princess treatment, I deserve to be treated like a princess, my partner should treat me like a princess. Whether you're 60 or closer to 16 than 60, like at the end of the day, normal women out here want to be treated like princesses, alright? But here now, you have a woman that's been a princess her entire bloody life up until she got married, alright? She's lived the princess life. Whatever princess treatment you're saying that you'd want, she's probably gotten that and more because she has been a princess. So guess what? For you as a guy, you have probably one of the nicest jobs ever if you're a particularly genuine dude, because now all you have to do is just make her feel normal. Because you think about it, she's been treated like a princess her entire life. What else can you do as far as making her feel like a princess that she hasn't had done for her? Like, the best thing that you can do is treat her normally, treat her like a normal person, and I kid you the hell not. Like, she's gonna fall in love with you because she wants a genuine soul to connect with. You are a genuine soul to connect with. You treat her like a normal person, not like a princess where she's supposed to be handled like an egg and you're supposed to be at her every beck and call. And I kid you the hell not, she'll probably love you a hell of a lot more because you just seem way realer than just about everyone else in her life that still treats her like a princess. So I feel like this is an absolute dream come true because, like, you can say that you've bagged a 10, but you really can't beat the guy who says that he bagged a princess, because my nigga just went and bagged royalty. She had the bags, but she dropped it for you. So it's either she's really bad at making decisions or you're just a really, really dope dude, of which it looks like this guy's a particularly dope dude. So I am actually quite happy for them. And with that dream already put in the bag, now it is time to leave that and go and deal with the nightmare that can sometimes be the people in your lives, which is, in this particular case, still related to women. So moving on to our main topic of this episode, not too long ago, I decided to refine a statement that had been said by the late great Kevin Samuels, which was "Single women keep women single." And even using it as a title on one of my episodes, I said that it should be refined from "Single women keep women single" to just "Women keep women single." And the reason I mentioned that on this episode isn't just because I'm talking about an episode that I did, which you should probably go and listen to. It was actually particularly interesting to do, but it's because of a particularly interesting post that I was sent via WhatsApp by someone particularly close to me. And mad shout out to you, Laura, for sending this to me. And it featured something that was very, very similar to what it is that I said. And it was actually in relation to money, not necessarily just women keeping women single, but it was actually around the topic of money. Now, it was a question that was posed online to some guy called Muregi, and there were two comments that were brought up, and I will bring up those comments before I get into my thoughts on the entire thing. So the story goes, and I quote, "Afternoon, Muregi. I want to ask you and maybe your audience. I'm 25, but whenever I date someone, they never give me money. My friends even tell me sometimes that I shouldn't be with someone that doesn't give me money. Is it a must that someone gets money from their boyfriend? Because I've never found someone that gives it to me and I don't complain at all. I wake up, I go to work, I have my small salary and I'm okay with it. Whether the man wants to give me money or not, it's okay. He doesn't, I'm still good. My friend recently went off. Hadi, I felt bad about it, but it's just that I don't know how to ask for other people's money." End quote. Okay, so this is a particularly interesting situation, and I'm sorry if the grammar doesn't sound all that good. I was trying to read and also translate, some of the stuff that was being said, but I hope you at least got the context. Babe doesn't usually get money from any of the boyfriends that she's had, even the current one that she does have, and her friends are kind of going off and claiming that, this is a problem, or your man is supposed to give you money, blah, blah, blah. Now, I do have a couple of thoughts on it, but I said I was going to read the comments first, so let me start by reading the comments. So one commenter said, and I quote, "And I'm sure those relationships don't last long, and most of the men don't even genuinely care about her. When you don't require people to invest anything to get your love, they're not going to appreciate it. It's useless and disrespectful to yourself. Have needs so that they can get a chance to be there for you. Give them something to be there for you. Let them put effort. In short, ask for money or whatever it is you need, and that one person who genuinely cares and loves you will fulfill to their level best." End quote. And that's the first comment. Let me move on to the second one, which says, and I quote, "So from my experience, it was about people pleasing tendencies and the way society makes us feel like being able, you shouldn't be having many needs or wants, also trauma and fear of feeling like a burden. You cannot give yourself to a man just like that without getting anything in return. The man isn't showing up fully on the provision part. She should go within herself, introspect, genuinely ask herself what makes her think she should not be asking from the men she's with. She should stop being a pick-me, heal that part of her that is not able to receive from a man. She can't just be giving and giving and giving." End quote. Okay, now with what's been said, do I agree with it? I don't know. To some degree, they kind of have a point, but to another bit, I feel like they're probably stretching it a little much. Like the part about giving yourself to a man and getting nothing in return. I know she didn't say sex directly, but I feel like that's what was implied. Personally, I feel like that makes it seem transactional, and personally that almost makes it seem as though she's a hoe to some degree. But I don't want to stretch it to that point. And I will kind of get into the whole getting nothing in return, because I feel like there are a lot of women that may speak on something like this in a not so nice way, and they probably might not fully understand how sometimes a difference in context might not actually necessitate you to be this harsh, because there are other ways around this entire thing, and I will get to that in a moment. Although I do think that maybe to some degree could say that she's a pick-me. I know it's not something that you'd expect me, a guy who speaks up for guys, to say, but maybe she is. Let's assume that she is, and she's doing all of this people pleasing, and she's just trying to please her men by trying to seem like she isn't that big of a burden. And maybe it's true, maybe it could actually be a case of that happening, but I don't think that the only way that she can or should be appreciated by her partners is just by money. Like, I feel like there could be way more to this than we're probably hearing as far as context goes. Now, this entire time, people have just been focusing on the money side of it. And it's like these women are busy saying, your man has to give you money or has to, cater to your needs, quote unquote, in one way or another. And that requires money and all. And while I don't think it's like a bad thing for the guy to not do that, I do think that there are some cases where it's simply a case of the guy not valuing you. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that guys have to be paying for shit. Like, I feel like there are guys that are perfectly okay with that. There are guys that may not be as comfortable with that. And I think there's some guys that are okay with being somewhere in the middle. But do they have to do it? No, not necessarily. Sometimes you're just independent. That's how you've been brought up, and that's not what you expect. And, that's also pretty okay. But now, with that said, what are my actual thoughts on the entire thing? I think there's a couple of different ways to look at this entire issue. And yes, I've kind of looked at it from like the whole pick me side. Oh, she's just giving and giving and giving. She should get something in return, which is what the comments were saying. But personally, even without looking at the comments, I have my own thoughts on this that are mostly different from what these ladies were busy commenting on. Because for me as a guy, it's not like I'm saying, if I love you, I must spend on you. Like that's not how I function. That's not how I was brought up. That's not how I believe relationships should be, because it's like the way I show love is by giving money. And hell, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but it's like nowadays people forget that there's 5 different love languages and money isn't all of them. And it's not like I'm the only person. It's not like it's only guys that will have that mindset. Both genders can have that mindset. And there's definitely different ways to look at it. So in my opinion, when I kind of saw this, the first thing that I thought is maybe she could be displaying her independence and it's what's affecting her. Because for guys, yes, we are primarily problem solvers and we do want to solve a problem. And if you do not display a problem to be solved, then we probably won't try and solve that problem. Now, of course, it's not like I'm going to say that, if a guy sees that you're having trouble with rent, he'll pay it for you. Like, okay, maybe there's some guys that can do that, but it's not like I'm gonna try and do that shit. Yes, maybe if I love my partner, I wouldn't mind, treating her out on a day when she isn't feeling all that great. Maybe if we go to the club, I'm paying for drinks. If you're that kind of dude, that's a you thing. Maybe, just treating her out on her birthday or during her anniversary or just at a random time. Gifting your partner isn't a bad thing. And if that's it, that's okay. But if, for example, you're a woman that's making way more than he does and you probably treat yourself very, very well, then it can be a little bit hard for a guy to come up and be like, okay, I want to take her for a spa date, but she goes for that like once every month. Like, how is it going to change anything if I pay for it and I'm like, all right, you go and have a spa date? Like, it doesn't really change shit for someone that's making really good money, because you're basically paying for the same thing that she doesn't have a problem paying for herself. And, maybe the babe might appreciate it more if you decide to start paying for stuff like that, or nails, or her salon treatment and everything and all that. But with the way most of us guys function, it doesn't look like a problem that needs to be solved, so we're not exactly trying to solve it. So if you display your independence like that, maybe it could be hurting you. So to some degree, you could say that what the commenters were saying to a very small level might have actually carried weight. And also, there's just some women that just aren't looking at it as like, I want a guy that can give me money. So, there's that. And I think that one is the one that I can say is totally within her control. The other reasons I don't think are entirely within her control, because another way that I could look at it is maybe she's loved in other ways. Like that one is entirely on the guy. And you could blame this on the kind of guys that she selects. You could blame this on the way that she says she wants to be treated by the guys that she chooses to be with. And more often than not, you'll find a babe who's like, oh, my man doesn't give me money. But when you look at all the other things that he does, he probably makes up for it in one way or another. Because, like I said, it's like nowadays, there's a lot of people. And by the way, when I'm referring to a lot of people, I'm probably saying, a lot of women think that the only way to show money as a man is by money. It's like the 5 love languages all have money slapped on them. 1 all the way through to 5 is just money, 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 money. And that's not really the case. And yes, I know someone could say, oh, buy her shopping or do some shit like that. And, you could argue that, is also a representation of it. And probably he doesn't do that. But try and look at it in a couple of other different ways. Maybe this guy cooks for her all the time. Maybe he's just very, very good at being a caring and passionate partner, and he shows her affection all the time, so much so that she's like, you know what, even though he doesn't buy me shit, it's okay, because this man shows me affection in other ways that don't require money, so it's not really like it's a big deal for me. It could be that it only became a big deal for her, and it very easily seems like it became a big deal for her because her friends started complaining that she doesn't get money from the boyfriends. Not that she had a problem, she was okay with it before, But now it's like, now because the friends are the ones that are complaining, now it's suddenly a problem. So like you can clearly see she seems to be fairly satisfied, and she's probably been satisfied in those relationships, even though the guy doesn't just outright give her money. Also, there's instances where you find that your boyfriend probably lets you use the car from time to time. He doesn't complain, he doesn't ask you to put fuel, he basically makes sure that it has fuel for you to use, and he'll never complain, he'll never bat an eyelid. You have the comfort and the peace of taking that. It's not like he's giving you money, but you have access to an asset of his. Or maybe anytime you guys leave the house and you go for anything or just some random things together, you never have to worry about the bill. He's not giving you money, but he is paying for stuff. All right. And I think in as much as it's a case of, oh, he never gives me money, you don't really have to wait for a bill. You don't have to think about the bill, because that's a thing. And yes, I know there's someone who's gonna be like, but that's bare minimum, we want better than that. Like, yo, some people might call that bare minimum, but when you look at some of the things that you guys have been settling for out here, like, does that really count as bare minimum though? But anyways, I'm not attacking women, but in short, what I'm saying is that you don't just have to use money to show love. There's other ways that you can show love, and that's like 4 other love languages, or even 3 other love languages that don't require you to necessarily use money like that. Then the other reason, which I was thinking of, is that maybe, just maybe, she just doesn't attract that type of guy. And it might seem like, oh, you know, the right guy is always willing to go the extra mile for you, is always willing to change. And yes, maybe you might be right about that to some degree, but let's be quite honest, when it comes down to it, there's only so much that people can do. You can try and take a guy that spends a little bit to spending a little bit more, but it's not like you'll have someone who is okay paying for lunch dates alone moving towards paying for rent. Like, we need some level of progression here. And yes, maybe you could argue that these men didn't feel like they had to contribute that much and they didn't appreciate all that much. You can argue all of that shit, but maybe she just prefers a guy that likes her with her independence and loves that about her. And there's guys for that. Like, you could argue this shit all you want, but let's be quite straight. There's usually a sort of type of person that you find different people attracting. Like, if you actually check, and this one, even the women can probably confirm for me, like, there's probably going to be that one friend that just seems to attract guys that are ready to blow money on her. There are also women that seem to attract the kind of guy that's just a bad boy, and they're always fighting with whoever it is that they're dating. There's also a woman that has a tendency to only attract a particular set of profession or a particular set of professionals. It's not like she's going and looking and saying, oh, this is my type, I'm gonna date them. You find that those people just generally approach her, or you might find that she just generally meets those guys because probably she's in particular circles. But essentially, you find that for you as a person, that could also just be a certain kind of person that you attract just generally. And maybe she just doesn't attract the type of guy that is blowing money for their babe. And you know what? That might not be a bad thing. I don't think it is, because like I said, sometimes those guys actually will show love, but in other ways. They will do it in so many other ways that don't require you to blow a stack of cash or to just outright give money to your partner. And yes, to a lot of women today, it's going to look like it's a problem. Oh, you know, if a man loves you, he should give you money, or he's going to give you money. And I feel like that's the problem with outside influence in relationships, because just like I said initially, this woman, even from the context that she gave, from the story and the whole question that she brought up, she was talking about how it's her friends that are bringing it up as an issue. She's never had an issue with it. She hasn't been bringing it up as an issue. And she's like, you know what? I have trouble asking for money from my man. And yes, that could be an issue, but it's not like she was like, oh, you know, I want a man who gives me money. Like, that's not something that she said. That was something that the friends were saying, which goes back to the statement that I started with, which is, it's not that single women keep women single. Women in general are keeping women single out here. She could be with a dude that's absolutely amazing and treats her like gold, treats her like a princess, you know, no pun intended. But at the same time, you're busy listening to a couple of people who are like, oh, if your man doesn't give you money, then he doesn't love you. You're being a pick-me. Like, maybe she's happy in the relationship. And maybe her not being given money while she's in that happy relationship doesn't affect her all that much. So the problem isn't her, the problem is the friends. And I'm not saying that this is your cue to go and dump your friends because you disagree with them or you're doing great in your relationship, but I believe that you should always scrutinize some of this advice, because at the end of the day, you might be baited by your friends to drop a perfectly good man simply because of something that they think he should or shouldn't be doing for you or to you, and then you end up alone. And these same friends who have boyfriends or husbands and shit will still go back to those same partners who may be treating them well, who may be treating them like shit, and still sleep in the same warm bed that they share with said person. At the end of the day, your relationship isn't theirs, their relationship isn't yours. How they're treated should not mean that you should be treated the same as them, because you don't know what happens on their end. Sometimes they could be getting money, but this guy who's around, they know that shit and they're exercising some convenient ignorance. And other times, they probably might not be getting enough of that man that they say, treats them so bloody well, as opposed to your partner that is always there for you. So to conclude all of this, let me just say, if it doesn't bother you, then that's okay. Alright? If it's their problem, it's their problem. It's not yours. But if it does, then you can do something about it, like, I don't know, having a discussion with your partner. But all in all, I probably don't think that it bothered her, but it could just be me. Either way, I could be wrong about this, and maybe, just maybe because I'm a guy, I'm busy trying to speak up for not spending as much money. So I want your thoughts on it. The DMs are open. On IG, it is at the breaktime_podcast. On Facebook, it is at the breaktime podcast. On X, it is at bagaka_the_D. And on Bluesky, it is at the breaktimepod.bsky.social. Thank you so much for listening all the way till the end, and I will catch you guys on the next break.
But what I believe is that if you put a pastor and a prostitute in one room, one is likely to convert the other.